All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Empower You Crown Up, where we believe in empowering minds to live empowered lives. Today, we have our special guest on with us today. Her name is Dominique Carson, and we are so excited. So, without further ado, we're going to bring her to the front center of the stage. Hi, Dominique.
Hi, Brittany. How are you?
So good. I'm so excited to have you on as our guest today, as well as our audience. Tell us about you and what it is that you do.
Okay. So I'm originally from NYC, New York City, the Big Apple. I currently live in Virginia Beach now. That's the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, the 757. And I'm a number of different things. I am a author, an orator, a journalist, award-winning journalist, and then as of last year, a globally recognized massage practitioner, award-winning as well. And this year is a very important year for me. This is year number 5 as a massage practitioner. So it's a great deal because they say a lot of us don't last within 5 years after graduation. So the fact that I'm approaching year number 5 and with double the knowledge and the skills of finishing massage school in New York, it's a blessing. So I'm just grateful for that. So that's just a snippet about me.
I love it. And globally, that's a huge thing to be known
Thank you.
globally. Like, that's
Yeah,
amazing. So,
thank you.
looking at your journey, did you ever believe that you would be the woman you are today? Like, you think about your childhood. Like, did you ever dream of being a massage therapist, a journalist, an author? Did that ever cross your mind?
The journalist part, the writer, absolutely. I was 9 years old when I started exploring writing and journalism. BET, the original BET, that's when they were still headquartering in DC, had a show, Team Summit, and Ananda Lewis was the host. And I just loved how she used to host the show, Team Summit on every Saturday. I just thought that journalists were just authors to the world. Like they tell us what's going on using author's purpose. That was a literary term that I learned at school. And I was like, I want to do that. I didn't want to be on television per se, but I want to do that with writing. So the journalism part, yes. The being an author, I remember I was eating breakfast at 10 years old on a Saturday. And my grandmother's like, you know, you're gonna write books, right? I said, excuse me? She just said it randomly. She was like, you know, you're gonna write books, right? And I was just like, okay. She was like, no, seriously, you're gonna write books. Cause she would see how I would pay attention to the newspapers, the magazines, the circulars from Toys R Us. And my cousin Nicole, she just brought this up a few weeks ago after seeing me speak out the All Stars. She was like,
Mhm.
this is my little cousin that always wanted a Toys R Us circular every Sunday to read. Every Sunday. And they would have the circular ready for me to look at every Sunday as a child. And so little things like that. But the massage therapy, that was just so random. Like that fell under my umbrella as a teenager at 17. My
Mm,
mom and my pops, they wanted to do something different. They were already introducing me to self-care by
mm.
taking me to a spa in Manhattan. It was called Serenity. My brother was an athlete at the time, like a major athlete. And I remember him looking at the male therapist. He's like, "Nah, I'm good. It got to be a female therapist. If it's not, I'm not getting a massage." So he got a female therapist. I had a female therapist as well. And I fell in love with massage therapy. I thought it was going to be like a self-care regimen for me. I just never thought that I was going to be the giver. I always thought I was going to be the receiver until my beloved grandmother, once again, God bless her soul.
Yeah, those
I
grandmothers,
was,
they keep you in alignment,
no,
huh?
man. So one night I'm at her house and she having these aches and pains from being a diabetic. So I just did like a light compression on her. And that's when she was like, you're gonna have another career using your hands and they're gonna help people. But I always knew the craftsmanship of my hands. I just never knew that it was gonna be massage therapy till she said it. And she was like, you gonna have another career. And I was like, what? What's she talking about? I'm a journalist. I use my hands now. She was like, you heard what I said. So anytime she said, you heard what I said, I was like, okay, this lady's not joking. So I said, let me just make sure my grandmother is not biased because out of the 23, I was one of her special grandchildren, I must say. So I started exploring it with my mother, my family, and my friends from the neighborhood. And they was like, yo, Dom, you need to be doing something with this. Like, this is a gift. Like, you need to not play with it. Still didn't listen. I graduated from college. By then, I have my BA, my MS. I'm making decent money in the communication field, but I felt unfulfilled.
Mm,
I mean, all these celebrities, I'm doing all these shows, I'm freelancing, and yet I feel unfulfilled. I
mm,
feel like there was something else that I needed to be doing. So the
mm,
massage therapy subject came back around again. And my grandfather, my father's father, gave me $100 for my 25th birthday. And I kept looking at the $100. I said, what am I really going to do with this $100? And I used it to apply to massage school.
wow.
And the rest was history. Hmm.
Wow. And, just hearing you say that passion and fulfillment. And, I'm in the mental health field and I talk to a lot of clients. And that's one thing that people ask all the time. It's like, how can someone, for example, they might have all this money. How can
Hmm.
they not be fulfilled, or why are they committing suicide, or why are they not happy? Because those who haven't
Hmm.
achieved that, they're like, okay, all I need is some money and I'll be good.
Hmm.
But the reality of
Hmm.
it is, once you get it, then what? And so it's important
Yeah.
to be in alignment and know what it is
Yes.
you truly want and go after
Yes.
it, but
Yes.
operating in your passion. So that
Yes.
brings us to the next thing. What is it that keeps you going on your days that you just don't feel your best? Like, do you have a favorite quote, favorite scripture, or do you have a routine, something that you do to just help you keep pushing?
Um, I definitely have favorite scriptures. I have two favorite
All
scriptures.
right, lay them on us.
Jeremiah 29:11
Yes,
and Matthew 19:26. With God, all things are possible.
yes.
I just think of what God designed me to be, and that I have every opportunity to wake up and do something different. I remember this before I started driving, because in Virginia, you need a car. And I was still taking lifts to work. And a Lyft driver told me, we don't have problems, we have incidents.
Mm,
The day you have a problem is the day you don't wake up.
mm, mm.
And that kind of strengthened my perspective even more, because when you wake up, you have the ability to be the best self. You have ability to make the decision to be your best self.
Mm,
So it's a combination of just, of course, that alone, my faith, and then, support, family support. But at the end of the day, with the family support and the friend support and mate support, you have to make the decision. You have to make the decision. Nobody couldn't walk for you when you were a kid, right? Nobody couldn't walk for you for a baby.
There cannot.
And
You have to do it yourself.
nobody can walk with you now as an adult. So you have to make the steps to walk, and walk with purpose, and walk with action.
Yes. And I talk a lot about that as well, about being intentional. You have to
Yeah.
be intentional how you start your day. And
Hmm.
so I tell people all the time, you got to plan ahead of time. You can't just wake
Yeah.
up the next day and you think you're going to sleep in to noon and think that you're going to get things done.
Trust me, don't get it twisted. Like, I love my sleep now. I do. Like, especially like me being such a busybody, dealing with, more than one type of occupation, or one type of skill set. I need to rest. But at the same time, I tell people, without a plan, you're bound to fail.
Boom.
You have to plan. Plan subject to change. Obviously, we know that.
Right.
But plan it.
And I love what that driver told you, because it sounds like that's something that has stuck with you to keep you
Yeah.
going, to not like, no, I don't have a problem. Because the problem is the day that you're in the grave, right? The problem is
Yep.
the day that
That's the
you have
problem.
not
Hmm.
fulfilled what you were put here on earth to fulfill.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I just think that that's important for us to really just express gratitude day in and day out. I was literally
Yeah.
reading some things yesterday that talked about expressing gratitude. Like, successful people or people who have a positive mindset, they start off with a mind of gratitude.
Hmm.
And there's always something you can be grateful for.
Yep.
I mean, goodness, we're not in a hospital bed, we are breathing.
Yeah.
we're in our right mind, there is so much to be grateful for.
Absolutely. I have a perfect quote that I say about gratitude. Gratitude is a virtue offered with deeds and actions stemming from a wholehearted spirit.
Yes, wholeheartedness. I love it. Love it. Love it. So when you tell it, well, tell us a little bit more about your journalism and your books.
Okay. So this has been a 17-year journey. I remember being a student journalist in Brooklyn. I graduated from one of the most prestigious high schools in Brooklyn, was Edward R. Murrow, named after a journalist.
Okay.
And my mother had me set on going to another high school. I wanted to go to a different high school, and it was my grandfather. Like I said, that family support. He was a bus driver for New York City Transit. So one day we were sitting eating breakfast, and because he called me Nicky Nack, he never called me Dominique. I think maybe 2 times in my whole life before he passed away, he called me Nicky Nack. So we sitting at the table, and he's like, "What high school you going to?" I said, "Gramps, I don't know. Like, my mother wants me to go here." And he's like, "All I know is you too smart to go to a school with a whole bunch of you know what." I said, "I don't want to go there, so you don't have to worry about that." He said, "I'm telling you, choose this school, Edward R. Murrow." And I said, "Let me tell you how God worked. Murrow was not my first choice. Murrow was my second choice. And my second choice called me first."
Mm.
And I said, "Okay, God, must be the school you want me to go to." And when I arrived, the school changed my life. It changed my life the minute I was accepted to the journalism program, because you had to take courses to be accepted to the journalism program, allowing you to write for the student newspaper by the time you were in 11th grade. So this wasn't a club that you can just easily get into. Um, my faculty advisor, my teacher, my mentor, Mr. Scott Mencher. And by the way, shout out to him, because he is the first professional that's ever called me Dom. That's
Mm.
how a lot of people are able to call me Dom now, because he was the one. He was the first person that asked me. And I said, "Yes, you can." So he was the one. So he's the first person that set that up. But long story short, we wrote about so many different things as teenagers. We wrote about teen pregnancy, homosexuality. We wrote about religion. We wrote about early graduation. We were so diverse. We had such a diverse portfolio. And mind you, I went to high school in the mid 2000s. So it was a different time period. We wasn't as fluid as everything is now with topics in
Mhm.
high school. So we had that freedom thanks to the editor in chief I had, Ronisha Bing. She's now an Emmy Award winning journalist with her own business. And I had an assignment to do outside of the school. And it was a high school journalism workshop with MTV. And they chose our high school. And she only wanted 2 or 3 other journalists to go with her to interview the cast of Degrassi. So that was a sitcom that Drake was on when he first started.
Okay.
So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be interviewing the cast of Degrassi. Like, this is Drake. Like, are you kidding?" Like, but he wasn't Drake yet. He was still Aubrey Graham. And he
Mhm.
was just starting in the music industry. I was too thrilled. I was like, this was my like Hope and the Restless as a teenager. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I could interview like some of the cast members."
Mhm.
So I was just thrilled with that. And she was like, "No, you're going to write the story with me now." I was like, "Oh, okay, this is huge, like to write that kind of story." So that was like my introduction to celebrity journalism, entertainment. I studied it throughout a college, and now I've interviewed over 100 prominent people in American culture for
Mm.
the last 11 years, going on 12, actively as a freelancer. But my journalism career started from when I was 16.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I love that so much because I remember like when I was in a journalism class and I remember we were allowed to, well, the question was to ask about, to write your viewpoints about those who go to prison. Do you feel like they should
Mhm,
receive the death penalty or not? And just different things like that. And I
mhm,
remember us being like, just the debate was on, okay, back and
mhm,
forth. But
mhm,
students were allowed to have more autonomy in their classrooms and if teachers were allowed to explore more, that would just really spike a higher interest in the needs of many of our students to really take
Mhm,
ownership of their learning. Because hearing the things
mhm,
that you guys were talking about, abortion and all of that, those are like
mhm,
some key topics that people need to be able to express their opinions without feeling like someone's gonna come on you a certain way
mhm,
because you said
mhm.
something and now we can't be friends anymore or this, that, and the other. And the thing about it, it's okay to agree to disagree. It is okay. Like God created us all different. We don't have to all have the same opinion. That would be boring if we all had the
Exactly.
same opinion. So I think that's amazing that you've been able to do those things and just do what you do and just be passionate about who you are and whose you are. So, do you have any closing words for our listeners today when it comes to feeling empowered or just pushing people to just keep striving for whatever it is beyond whatever they see? Because, like you said, you had to hold on to your faith when you were,
Mhm,
having to get a ride here or having to do this, or when you just couldn't see the next step. But as you also said, your grandmother, she spoke over your life. And when she said things, they came to pass. And so,
yep.
what are your words of empowerment to someone that can't see right now? Because it's dark and there's a lot going on.
I get it. I get it 100%. Imma say it again, faith is everything. I'm not trying to preach, but I just know for me, my personal experiences and what I've obtained and overcome, I know that it wasn't possible without God. When we have like our book coach, Taria say, ego, you edging God out. And
Mm,
when you edge God out, you don't get no progress.
mm,
You don't get no progress at all. And understand that along with him, you have to do the work. You
mm,
have to make a decision. Like I said to you, nobody can walk for you as a kid, and nobody can walk for you now as an adult. Don't nobody owe you anything in this life. That's one thing my mother always taught me.
that's
I
right.
think that's one of my reasons why I'm so ambitious from her, because she understood from my mother to my grandmother to her to me, that nobody owes you anything. You got to work for everything in
Hmm.
this life. If you want to make it happen, make it happen.
And that's why we
And
have so many people who are expecting entitlement. And it's
yeah,
hard because nobody owes you a thing.
nope. Now that's I said, there's nothing wrong taking advantage of your resources, somebody giving you opportunities, but you have to make yourself available for those opportunities. I've said it countless and countless times. People have to be willing to change their priorities to match their opportunities. And a lot of us are not willing to do that. They're not willing to do that. They're
Mm-mm.
not willing to make the sacrifices to have the things that they want.
Yeah,
I
everybody
look back
wants and
up
wants, but they don't want to do the work that comes along.
exactly. I look back at my life at 33 and I'm like, damn, like God has been good to me. Like I've done a lot, but I know that this is not the end. Like I have a lot more to do. And I was listening to my childhood friend motivational quote this morning, about being, being comfortable. And that's the worst thing that you can do, is to be comfortable. He said comfortability breeds laziness.
Mm. And it does.
Uh-huh.
That's so
It
true.
does. It does. It does. Because you get complacent about where you are in your life. And that's all realms. That's just not your career, your relationships, your intimate relationships, your relationships with your children, et cetera, relationship with others. You can't be complacent. It's just obsolete. So I would just say that keep your faith, have that inner strength to do it and momentum to do what you have to do, and then ask for help. Closed mouths don't get fed.
That's right.
Closed
Turn
mouth
it
don't get fed. They don't get fed. So you have to ask for help. And I could say that because I'm one of the most stubborn people. Like, but if I know there's an opportunity that's gonna get me to the next hustle, like opportunity, I'm gonna put my hustler mode on and see if how this person's gonna help me
Mhm.
make it happen. Or if they can't help me, maybe somebody in their circle can make it happen. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And I think a lot of us, want the results, but they don't want the responsibilities that come with it. They don't want the sacrifices that come with it. They don't want the action that comes along with it. And the last thing I would say is what our beloved BP sister Crystal said. You have to respect the process because it matters. You have to respect the process. I think a lot of us want the harvest, but we don't want to sow those seeds. You
Mm.
don't want to we don't get down and gritty to make that happen. But it's all about respecting the process.
Yes, yes, yes. And you hear a lot of successful people talk about that all the time, that people see me where
Mhm,
I am today, but they have no idea what I went through to get
mhm.
where I am today.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
even when I just think about, my own personal life and have been working hard and elevating to being a keynote international speaker, and, just the things that you go through with people and
Mhm.
people that you thought had your back that you realize did not. And it's just so
Exactly.
eye-opening, but people don't see all that. They see you smile when you get on stage, or they see you smile when you do this or do that, but they have no idea what you have been through to get where you are. And that's why they say, be
Mhm.
careful who you look at and say, oh, I want their life. Because,
Yep.
honey, that comes
Baby.
with a price. And when you were just talking a few minutes ago about respecting the grind, that's something that I've noticed. And just watching a lot of the people who work very closely with Kobe Bryant, they talk a lot about his grind. He had a grind like none other. And when you think about yourself, Dom, in the field that you are in, and that's why you've been able to last as long as you have, is because of your grind, your work ethic, the things that your family from generation to generation has instilled in you, which has made you who you are today. And so
Mhm.
when people are telling me, because I talk to a lot of parents, when they tell me they don't want to lay down the law, they don't want to put their foot down, well, I always ask them, would you be where you are today, or would your parents would have been where they were today, if they didn't have someone guiding them with structure and guidance? Because that's our job,
Mhm.
like our to
Mhm.
lead and guide our children. And I think a lot of times people forget that, like, that is our job. That's what we're supposed
But
to do.
we need structure. Like God is a man that is of structure, not confusion,
Mm,
not catastrophe. If you want to get biblical, we could get biblical. So
hello.
God disciplined his children. So how dare you not discipline your children?
And they
I
want
I
it.
was they
They
won't.
want it.
I've seen my mother being an educator now 29 years. And there are a lot of good teachers, but they don't have classroom management. I
Mhm.
see my mother can inform a student successfully with classroom management and don't have to yell.
That's right.
They don't have to yell. And I hate to say it because I carried it over. Watching her for so many years, I carried it over. But that was one of the best things I loved about my mother being a teacher. Her classroom management is crazy. And
Mm.
she does not yell.
That's right. But you know what? It comes down to building those relationships. And I tell that to
Mhm,
a lot of educators. You can't come in, trying to do this and do that if you don't have a
mhm.
relationship. You have to learn to respect them and they will respect you, but you gotta start with knowing they have to know that you care about them. And
Yep,
that's with anything. Nobody's gonna listen to you until they know that you care. And once they know that you
exactly.
care, then you got them sold. They sold. They all in. So
I'm
tell us.
telling
Oh,
you.
go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I'm saying I agree with you 100%. I remember I was teaching students as a work site supervisor. This was a job I had um, when I was finishing massage school. I thought about Dr. Stephen when she said this at the New You conference. Transfer skills pay those bills. So I had to use one of my transferable skills, and I was dealing with a lot of teenagers. I was dealing with 10 kids, myself and two other young ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried us in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
coming in and smelling like reefer, smelling like marijuana. I said, let me tell you something right now. I don't care what you do after 4 o'clock, but between the hours of 10 and 4, you under my care. If you come in here and smell like reefer again, I am sending you home.
Mm.
And when I said that and he saw the seriousness in my face, wow.
They changed. That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You want a job so bad, you want to get paid. What are you doing to get your check?
Mm.
this is not it.
Yeah, well, everybody ain't after you. Okay. I'm like, now everything ain't everybody else now. You got to look at yourself at some point. My
Yep.
goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that brings us to this, how can everyone stay in connection with you, with those who want to say, they say, hey, Dom's really dope. I want to definitely stay in touch with her and just work with
Okay.
you or whatever they want to do.
All right. Glad you asked. You guys can click on my linktree.com/dom0922. You can see information all about me, where I've been featured, my social media platforms, and an alternative, a complimentary gift about massage therapy. 8 things you should be doing before you receive a massage.
Oh, I love that. Can you repeat your link tree one more time for our audience?
Okay. Linktree.com/DOM0922.
Love it. And they can see all the platforms you're on and 8 things that you need to do
Yep.
before you get a massage. Oh my goodness. Definitely make
Mm-hmm.
sure you guys check that out because who knew? Most people think you just get on the table and that's it.
There are 8 things you should be doing before you get a massage.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. I love it. All right, well, Don, we're so excited to have you. We look forward to having you again in the future as one of our featured spotlighted guests. Well, thank you again for just being on our episode today.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been truly a pleasure.